Hola bandidos, ¿cómo estamos? Welcome to Mel's Magic. I'm Magic Mel, and this is episode 6, 6 from season 6. Owl and I, as usual, welcome you here. I need a different entry every time, otherwise you're gonna get bored. How are you doing, guys? It is Easter Sunday. Isn't that crazy? Totally forgot about that. I was like, why is it so quiet today? I mean, Sundays in Spain is usually quiet, but it's like uber quiet. It was just like the birds outside and me. I'm like, no cars, nothing. I'm like, oh yeah, it's a holiday. So if you're celebrating this sacred time, yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love the metaphor in general, resurrection and eternal life, because it is eternal. It's just starting, actually. I myself went through a resurrection. Again, that was my stomach. I keep on drinking water, and you know the whole spiel. And I might talk to you about it this episode. I keep on wanting to plan it, and then I when you think about a huge project and you get overwhelmed and then you just never start. So in my mind it's like, oh, it's this big thing I have to prepare. If I share with you what I went through, and maybe I should just share it, at least the gist of it. I'll do that, okay, this episode. Yeah? But then I wanted to share also this. Remember we spoke about the devil in episode 5? The devil meaning, another name I give it is just the critic in me, the not self, the antagonist that tells you you're not good enough, you can't do this, blah, 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 and tells you you're imposter, who do you think you are, all that kind of spiel. That's like the devil's voice. So here, told you I'm an artist, no? And I spent the last 2 years intensely working with my dreams and then representing visually those dreams. And that's one of them, where I invited my so-called devil to the stage. And I told you how I encourage, or at least that's how I do it. I encourage you to create or expand your loving, compassionate awareness so wide that even the non-self, the rejected parts, can sit in there. It's basically an unshaming consciousness where all of your parts, all of your aspects are welcome. Because as soon as we start judging and rejecting parts of ourselves, we get into trouble because we fragment those parts away from our loving consciousness. Et voila, this is the stage of my consciousness. That was me. I had different colored hair last 2 years. And that's the devil, and I invited him for a cup of tea and say, yo, what you've got to say? I'm here to listen. I might not necessarily agree, but I'll listen. Diplomatic. And yeah, he said what he had to say and then scurried off stage, and I invited someone else on there because, again, all of my aspects are welcome. Voila. I wanted to remind you also that I'm a coach, and that's actually part of my calling. I used to be God, you won't believe it. Magic Mel has so many lives. I used to be a teacher. That wasn't, first and foremost, I wanted to be an artist, so a visual artist, which I went and studied and everything. And then I got tired I studied in the UK, and then I went off to Thailand because I'm half Asian. I wanted to go to a country where I didn't know anyone. I didn't know the culture, had no relatives, had no friends, didn't know the language, niente. So Bangkok, Thailand seemed like a nice in-between, because Japan and China, fascinating places. But for me personally, I'm just talking about my own experience, it was too alien. So I needed something in between. And on the way to the Philippines, because I'm half Filipina, we always stopped in Bangkok. And I thought, it's a nice place, Buddhist culture, I can deal with this, interesting place. So the idea was to just spend a year there, and I ended up staying 9 years as a teacher. I did everything from elementary to university lecturer. Do you believe it? Yeah, Magic Mel. And then why am I talking about this? Oh yes, my calling as a coach. So I have a bit of I guess, I love to communicate. That's one thing. I discovered that from teaching, that I actually really love to inspire people, help people, support people, relay information, and communicate to other people. But after 10 years, my heart said, hey, enough, we got to shift gears, and I shifted. But that part definitely feeds into my coaching now. But I only embarked on this coaching career, I don't know if to call it career, calling, because I went through this massive transformation myself. And I came out of it and I made a pact with the Almighty, the highest, the universe, whatever you want to call it. Mahadev, I call it. I said, look, if you help me, I will use my experience for something good. And I was helped. So I'm kind of fulfilling my end of the deal, But yeah, I'll tell you a bit more of the story. Here we go with the nose again. Maybe it's like the computer. Every time I record, the screen gives off weird electromagnetic signals and makes my nose itch. So the coaching came to me as an opportunity. And now I'm like, you know what? This is exactly, it's so fitting because I feel I can be of support to someone else who maybe needs guidance. You might need guidance, and not from the premise of that I know more than you. No, actually from the opposite. I see you in the highest regard possible, and I create a safe space where you feel you have a container, a safe container where you feel safe enough to bring everything to the table that needs to be transformed, that needs to be looked at, that needs to be witnessed, that needs to be shared. And because we are relational beings, we can't always do everything on our own. I mean, mirroring starts from when we are babies. And that's when a lot of stuff goes wrong, because we actually need our parents to mirror back our emotions so we can integrate them and understand them and process them. So having somebody who's a compassionate witness to your own process is healing. So that is what I can be to you. And through my own experience, I have the bandwidth, the spectrum, the bandwidth to sit with you in your darkest moments and in your most glorious moments. Because you heard me say it, I've been to hell and back. So I can empathize. And I will hold the beacon of hope for you. Maybe if you can't see it, I'll still reflect and mirror back to you your highest resource, your desired state. That's an act of mirroring. It's a beautiful process. It's a bit like magic, really. And I've just completed a coaching course. It's literally called, it's quite funny. I mean, when I saw the email, I'm like, are they serious? It's literally called The Best Fucking Coaching Course by Simone Soul and Melissa Tears. I mean, look them up. They're like, that duo is fantastic. And in the last 3 months, I was given so many tools, so much information, so much knowledge, and not just abstract, academic, conceptual, but literally we had to put it to practice with our peer coaches. It was wild. And it made me realize, well, it reminded me of how amazing the human brain is, or how amazing we are as human beings. Our capacity to heal, our capacity to change if we want to, because it takes our wanting, our voluntad in Spanish, no? If you want to change, it is possible. We are not doomed and chained to a state that happened to us. Let's say we were traumatized by a specific event. It happens to so many of us. And we're frozen in time in the past and there's nothing we can do about it. No, our brain is highly malleable. And we can access those memories, that emotional state, unlock that memory. Our brain is actually in that state when we unlock the memory, open for new information to integrate a new memory. We can detach, dissociate that negative emotion. We can dissociate the unwanted behavior that got triggered as a defense mechanism because of that traumatic event. And we can insert another emotion. So the trigger no longer triggers the unwanted habit. the trigger will be associated to a new habit. And that creates change. Obviously, it takes practice. So me as a coach, it's like an athlete's coach. It's not like I'm going to do the work for you. It's not, okay, imagine I'm like a weightlifting coach. I'm not going to lift the weights for you, but I'll be there with the whistle, cheering you on and being there for you. You know what I mean? Obviously, it takes collaboration. And it's also about your own empowerment. So if you don't resonate with me, for example, find a coach who teaches you to fish, who doesn't just give you the fish, but who teaches you to be independent and self-standing, self-sufficient, and empowered with your own resources. That's my wish for you. If it's not me, then find someone else. Vale? But I'm putting it out there because I'm a super cool coach with highly valuable skills and experience and wisdom. Vale? So I'm putting it out there. If you are interested, email me. My email is in the description box below. And we can figure things out. But my fulfillment really lies in seeing somebody access their inner wisdom, their intuition, their resources, and transform and thrive and release, be more liberated. At the end of the day, that's what I'm all about. I can't say it. On about my own liberation from my own limiting beliefs, from my own resistance. I want to liberate myself from fear. And in the process, if I can model that energy, that frequency, that embodiment of joy, of freedom, because also, again, it comes back to the mirroring. If I bring that energy into the coaching container and it allows somebody else to resonate on that same frequency, and you see somebody thrive and free themselves, that's, for me, that's like, oh my God, it's so fulfilling. It brings me deep fulfillment. So voila, that's about the coaching. What else does Magic Mel do? I do tarot readings, you know that too, no? And then tarot readings are, it's not so much about if you come and ask me, okay, Magic Mel, what is exactly going to happen? I want to know from the cards what's going to happen exactly, bam, bam, bam. No, I'm not like a freaking fortune teller. And even that, we are the creators of our own reality. We choose the unfolding of our timeline in every moment, depending on our choice, our thought, our belief, our action, our words. That determines the next opening of a new timeline. It's not like a fixed thing. We're not like fated or doomed to some fixed outcome in the future. No. We're literally creating our own reality. So what does that mean in terms of tarot reading? It means that I will pull the cards for you. I will connect with your higher self, with your spirit team, and pull on the current energy you're in and the past energy that is influencing you, where you just came from. What is your present energy? Perhaps what is your obstacle and your challenge or your opportunity? And from this present energy, what is the likely future next step outcome given your future scenario, so your present scenario? But again, that future can change if you start changing your present in each moment. Gets? But basically, my tarot readings are energetic constellations. It's like a map where you can see reflected where you're at. And it helps you understand, it helps you connect with your unconscious because the symbology is there. The cards are like archetypal symbols, carry archetypal symbols that your subconscious will connect to. It will help you clarify your situation. Just watching my cat outside. Okay, so one-on-one coaching, Magic Mel, email, tarot readings, energy readings, email. Okay, what else we got up our sleeves? That's it for now. And, well, okay, since I already spoke about it so many times, okay, I'll tell you about my own story. Because you know what? Stories are important. And not just these general stories, personal stories are important. Espera. I'm gonna draw a general outline though, because I might get lost in detail. But basically, my background is that I always thought I had the perfect childhood. I really sincerely did. And, and it was quite a shock to me when I found out that it wasn't so black and white. It's a big thing I learned. Life is everything but black and white. Life is like 50 Shades of Grey plus. And it was a friend of mine who actually pointed out, she was like, Mel, I don't think you had the perfect childhood. In my brain told me so because, I did have loving parents. I grew up here in this beautiful, well, I was born in Munich, I'm half German. Grew up first 10 years there and then moved to Spain, beautiful Costa Blanca countryside, My parents sent me to university. We had all the means. And yet, it started actually when I was 16 years old. I remember I one day didn't get out of bed anymore. I remember that. It was like as if a black cloud had descended on me. And I had a weird knot or void or both in the pit of my stomach, just where the solar plexus is. And I couldn't make sense of it. It just felt terrible. And because I didn't know what to do with those emotions and that terrible feeling, I started to use food to soothe myself. And I quickly developed an eating disorder. It wasn't all out bulimia where, you stuff yourself and you then throw up, but I basically just stuffed myself. I didn't understand why, but there was this compulsion to stuff myself. And I was always quite petite, but that period I gained 7 kilos, which for my frame is all relative, no? Which for my frame was a lot. And I felt, that was like starting 16, something weird happened. This cloud descended, I started this eating disorder, binge eating. And this constant nagging void and pain in my stomach. And constant fear. This is only, I can articulate it now because I couldn't make sense of it in the moment, I was, looking back, I was definitely depressed. I had the eating disorder. I had anxiety disorder. But back in the day, it was just like, my parents were like, what's happening with you? Teenager, hormones. And it continued to at least, I think the last time I binge ate was like 30. I was 30 years old. So it's like that good 14 years, And even after that, sporadically, if I was distressed, I would use food to soothe myself. And all this time, I was always a star student. I was like the high achiever. In Germany, the grading was such that you get an Eins, is like sobresaliente, grade A. And I remember even in elementary, or what do you call it, preschool, I once got a 3 in religion, and I was like so upset. My parents were like, hey, it's okay. And I was so distraught. I'm like, I can't have a 3. I must have a 1. I must be the best. And it continued all throughout my studies. I was always the best. I always drove myself very hard. I was very focused and dedicated, obsessed almost. And even, did the masters. I did 2 masters in my job. It was almost the moment I would slip up, I would get anxiety. It was that bad. And because I was so familiar to it, it just felt normal. It's like there was no frame of reference to feel anything else. So I thought, well, that's normal. It did get better when my time in Thailand. Absolutely, it got better. Also, the whole nutrition, the food there was healing from my gut. And I felt somehow less pressure. But the darkness was still there, and it came out in other ways. I pursued some pretty dark romantic relationships. And I got, married once. And I remember that feeling also where there was almost like a sigh of relief when I got married, because I remember always the voice of my parents. You need to find someone who takes care of you. You need to find someone who takes care of you. And so when I, met my then husband, he's a wonderful man, but yeah, I felt kind of like, oh, now I'm being taken care of. Until the universe, who always wants our empowerment, pulled the rug from under my feet, and something happened where all of a sudden things weren't okay anymore. And I initiated the divorce. It was on me. And during that whole time, I was always like, what is wrong with me? I'm like, why do I always break things? Why do I always destroy things? There's something intrinsically wrong with me. That was always the narrative in my mind. And that was starting like 2016, where things started accelerating, because I feel the universe wanted to push on the gas pedal, because the universe wanted to accelerate our expansion, our empowerment. And the more I resisted, the more painful it became. So actually, starting 2016 up to 2021, those were the worst years, probably the worst years of my life, absolutely, where I spiraled, where maybe things were like this before, and then it went like really down. And I was diagnosed depressed. They wanted to put me on antidepressants. That was the first time. But then I went to the Philippines, because I said, no, I need to get out of the situation. I need to heal myself. There was some kind of voice in me that said, no, you need to heal. So I went to the Philippines and actually looked for a shaman. This is from the Philippines. Beautiful, no? I told you it's a long story. I went to see a shaman in the Philippines who turned out to be, that was crazy, actually a lady I had painted and who I sold my first portrait commission to when I was 19. She had completely transformed. This is a story apart, but this lady, who turned out to be my shaman, actually went through a transformation as well. It took her 9 years to discover that she was a blue blood shaman, and that her family had denied that because they wanted her to be a modern woman and all of that. But she discovered that in herself and left everything, left her business to dedicate herself to her calling. And that's when I met her again. But her story was also amazing. And she told me, I remember that, she told me, Melanie, because I was like desperate. I'm like, I need help. I need someone to tell me what to do. What's wrong with me? I can't believe I'm divorcing. Like, why am I always breaking things? And she said, Melanie, I think you're disconnected from your ancestors. And she made a beautiful halat ritual, Philippine ritual, where she cooked like a feast for my ancestors. Remember that? It took the whole night. Excuse me, guys, my nose. And then the wee hours of the morning, smoke. Oh, so a ritual. We were sitting there just before dawn. And she reconnected me with my ancestors. And up to that point, I was like, ancestors? What is she talking about? I mean, the concept of like being disconnected from my ancestors never occurred to me. And she told me, Melanie, I can't tell you what to do, but you have to tiwala. And tiwala in Tagalog means trust. And I was like almost mad at her. I'm like, seriously? You're telling me to trust? I don't trust myself. I don't trust anything. I don't know what to trust anymore. So I was desperate. But I remember that, tiwala. So actually, my first mantra as Magic Mel is tiwala, magic, faith. Because magic requires faith and trust. Tiwala. Tiwala, magic, faith. In any case, after that, you know how things only fall into place retrospectively when you actually have the perspective of looking at the whole story and how connecting the dots, how things were, building up a story. I was desperate. And because I did not trust myself, I did not trust my body, I did not trust my being, I was so in my head. I was actually my entire life always in my head, which was a factor in my breakdown in 2019. My consciousness was always up here. I never really trusted my body, nor my emotions, nor my feelings, nor my instinct, nor my nothing. I was completely distrustful of my body, my being. I was completely disconnected from my intuition and from my instincts. So after that, I went back and divorced, and things just started accelerating. I was in real life asked to face my shadow. I mean, it's another story. You know, our subconscious brings up people even to reflect back to us our own shadow so that we can integrate our shadow. It's so important. And my personal integration process was that I had to get out of my powerlessness, because my depression had to do with always feeling powerless, feeling like a victim, feeling disempowered, feeling at the mercy of others, not having a center, not having a sense of self, not trusting myself, being too much in my head. So I externalized my own sense of power in another person. It was like my shadow externalized. But because I didn't trust the entire process, I spiraled down even further into depression and anxiety. I had like a nervous breakdown. Basically, I was in overdrive. I was constantly running away from myself. And we know what happens. I mean, we can't outrun our own selves. We just keep on facing our own shadow, facing our own shadow. So my breakdown 2019 was a combination, a cumulative combination of all of those years of unprocessed trauma and on depression, which I never really looked at, added to an overdrive, like exhaustion, because I always drove myself to the max. I remember, you know, for each exam, I would just push myself so hard and then collapse. And then next thing, push myself so hard and then collapse. And at some point, our body's like, we can't do this anymore. So I had a physical collapse. My nerves were fried. My nerve, literally, I'm also hypersensitive, not hypersensitive, highly sensitive person in empath. So having my nerves always fried and being in this constant fight or freeze survival mode, it just fried my nerves. Nerves fried, system fried, my psyche fried. It was a crazy, like, very bad breakdown. To the point where I was in such pain. It was my psychic pain. My entire soul was in pain, meaning my entire body, because our body is actually an expression of our soul. It's the soul in 3D. This is my soul here in the 3D. It's not like my soul is somewhere out there. So I was in emotional pain. I was in physical pain. And it was that pain was 1 year nonstop. And it was so chronic and so intense that I thought no human being can be in this state of pain, of intense, chronic, never-ending pain. You know, like when we hurt ourselves in a localized way, and then, you know, I don't know if you like injure your hand, the pain is in one area, but this pain was all-encompassing. There was no escape. The only thing I could do in the end was sleep, because at least when I slept, I was disconnected from my state. But yeah, I ended up in months in bed. I ended up with suicidal ideation, even rationally thinking about taking my own life. So maybe I should put a trigger warning here. But I'm talking about this because it's important. I was rationally thinking about taking my own life because I was telling myself it is not humanly possible to remain in this state of pain. It's not possible. Like, I cannot spiritually, mentally, physically do this one day longer. And I was thinking about how I could do it. To the point where I was in Mexico, and I thought, and a part of me was like, Melanie, I think you need to go again to a psychiatrist, get something to get you out of this state. Because if you're planning on taking your life, this is, you know, I was thinking about the consequences also, of the consequence of taking my life, causing more damage. I said, this is not the way. So guys, I went through that. I went through different antidepressants at that stage because I needed to calm my mind. They put me on one that didn't work for me. That's the thing about antidepressants. You need to find the right one, and it takes time. I needed one that was, I can't remember the name, But I needed one that was a painkiller at the same time, not just a serotonin SSRI. I needed something that would actually get me out of the pain state also. Norendefin, I can't remember anymore. But after several tries, I found the right one. And I remember after a few days coming out of this pain state, like, because I was submerged in water. It felt this chronic state of pain. I guess the closest narrative I've read is by, and I need to look it up now, 1 second. The book is called A Memoir of Madness, Darkness Visible, A Memoir of Madness by William Styron. And I was saying that this is the closest description I have come across personally of the kind of state that I was in, that was so difficult, if not impossible, to relate to someone else, to even my own family was surrounding me. I felt so alone and alienated in this state, in this terrible, terrifying pain, all-encompassing pain. And as I said, I was thinking about it. I was rationally thinking about taking my own life. And you would not believe that looking at me. That's why it's also so dangerous to dismiss someone's experience, because we just cannot know what's going on inside of someone. And although when I was at that stage, I did physically look, I guess like a zombie, it was still not, how can somebody understand what you're going through? I did look up all of these, just like, how does it feel, deep chronic depression? Yes, there was feeling of sinking, this constant feeling of sinking, of my body being filled with lead instead of, it was weighing like 10,000 tons, my brain aching, the terror of the voice criticizing me. It was real terror. It was like a torture chamber. But that antidepressant got me out of that pain state, at least so I could function again. So I could actually go out and walk, for example, because I couldn't before that. And I have to thank a friend who literally dragged me to a psychiatrist, because I was at that point like I didn't care anymore. I was like, again a psychiatrist? It's not going to work. And she's like, Mel, you're thinking about taking your own life. You might as well try it one more time. And she even paid for my session. And it did help. And the thing is, that was in 2020, beginning of 2020. What I did not know is that obviously the medication helped my brain and my being out of the pain so I could at least deal with things again, but it didn't solve the root cause. And that's what I want to talk about. Because healing the root cause was a long process. It took me literally ending up back in my childhood home, which I never thought I would be back here, living back here. But just like the hero in the hero's journey of Joseph Campbell, going 360 degrees back to where it all started, to look at what happened. How did it get this far? What happened? What happened? And then I started to educate myself about trauma and everything. Gabor Mate, amazing. So much respect. Teal Swan, so much respect. That's when I started to uncover my own story and what, I told you, I thought I always had the perfect childhood. And I do deeply believe that my soul chose this journey because it did lead up to this point where I'm an empowered being. And I needed that contrast, that extreme state of powerlessness and victim state as a contrast to regain my power. What you're seeing now. It's a process though. And I do believe, again, there's meaning in all of that. And I want to share that because I want to give anyone out there who might be in that state or has gone through that state, like a ray of hope. And not to like save you. I'm not here to save anyone. But I do believe when we share our story, we can act at least like a lighthouse, like I've made it out. And so can you. So, where was I? I came back here 2000, yeah, where I just was in bed, took the antidepressant, managed to function again, and then I started to look at things. And I realized that as a kid, I was so sensitive and I didn't really have this stable environment, always toxic, screaming. I was always walking on eggshells. This is not to even blame my parents. I love them to bits. And there's all is forgiven. As I said, I take full accountability. It's also seeing that they were just people who had their own traumas that were unresolved. Yeah. They weren't emotionally capable of resolving their emotions in a constructive way. So I took everything on board. I swallowed all of the negativity, all of the toxicity. I tried to be the ambassador between my parents. I put the blame on me, as we do as children, because a child's brain, it's too life-threatening to realize that your parents are not able to love you. Maybe the way that, it's difficult to talk about this, maybe the way that ideally would benefit you. So you put it all on yourself as a child. You think something must be wrong with me, that this situation, that my parents aren't happy. That's why I was always this overachiever. And it was so wired in me, so in my subconscious, that I completely forgot about it until, as I always say, we cannot carpet sweep things forever. At some point, life thankfully pushes us to look at things so we can heal. And healing means coming back into wholeness. Is integrating those fragmented, traumatized parts of ourselves, reclaiming them and integrating them so we feel whole again. So in any case, I had to look at everything and go very steady, very slowly. It was like being reborn, and I had to learn how to talk to myself, learn how my body functions, rebuild my mind. It's like somebody really, it's like not from scratch, but it's like your entire house of cards, your entire life crashed and you almost didn't make it out. So you have to treat yourself with extreme tender care and gentleness and patience, which was difficult. It was very difficult because patience is not my forte. So I learned to be patient with myself, and I learned to take things one thing at a time, one conscious brick at a time, one conscious habit, healing habit at a time. Also finding what even resonates with me, because there's so many healing modalities. And I also say that always, guys, choose what resonates with you. Try things out. What feels good to you? There's so many. It's like Qigong, Yin Shin Jitsu, acupuncture, energy. I mean, there's so much out there. You try it out and you see what feels good to me. Then you keep that. So luckily, I had the chance to rebuild myself here, and we live in a quiet area. I needed this healing phase. It took 2 years to rebuild myself on a body level, mind level, and then also rebuilding this trust. Because the root cause, the root malaise was I didn't trust myself. I was scared of inhabiting my own body because I never felt really safe in my body. That's why also this high achieving academic part of me always escaped into the mind. My being escaped into the mind. It was too unsafe to really be in my body. And I'm still working on it through my breath, through slowing down. Because the ingrained program of overachieving, do, I guess it's a patriarchy, Screw natural rhythms, just achieve and produce. Malgré tout. It's deeply programmed. And the ego, the mind feels disconcerted when I say it's okay to rest. It's okay to not know. It's okay to trust the body. The mind is like, whoa. We don't know this. I'm like, well, we're going to learn it. I'm going to write a book about it because it's quite a story. There's, only so much I can cover here talking to you like this. And I'm going quite broad, general. But at least I touched upon it because I feel it's important. And I also told you that Male's Magic Official has a cause. Because I want to express myself and share my magic, how I made it out, who I am now in this new frequency, and perhaps inspire you. I mean, it's also selfish because I'm doing it for myself. I enjoy communicating. But who knows? You might resonate with what I'm sharing or how I'm sharing it. That's another thing. Because the truth, there's so many people talking about the truth, but everyone has a different way of expressing it. And that's why we are attracted to different people. We don't resonate with everyone's message, although we conceptually understand what they're saying. But, there's people who don't like Deepak Chopra. There's people who don't like Eckhart Tolle. What I'm saying is the more voices, the more of us who speak our journey and share our wisdom, the better, because then we have more to choose from. You might say, hey, Magic Mail, you're cool, but not really for me. It's cool. It's okay. But those of you who do resonate with me, I'm here. And I'm going to continue rocking my show here. Yeah. So I wanted to give you this side of my story because it's all not all unicorn and bubblegums, although I'm super pro unicorns and bubblegums. But as I told you, it took me, there's a story behind all of this. There's a background to Magic Mail. Yeah. And again, relating back to coaching, that's why I have the bandwidth. Vale? Whew, ¿qué más? And, the whole point is also discovering at the other end, there's also an end to healing. It's not like we're healing forever, always in this healing stage. No, I'm at the stage now where I'm like, I'm ready to thrive, to co-create, to soar. I mean, there's always some kind of healing to be done because we're not perfect. There's always mirroring and integrating and contrast. But I don't want to, take in this notion that I'm always broken and I always need to improve. Like self-improvement, fuck that. I don't want to self-improve. I just want to liberate myself. I want to be more free. There's something toxic in this notion that we're not good enough, or there's, what we're thinking and feeling and what we are at the moment is not good enough. That is toxic. We need to unshame so many parts of ourselves. Really. But I am pro freeing ourselves, being a freer, more liberated expression of ourselves. And it goes in stages. It's never ending also, I look back at my videos sometimes and say, I can't believe I said that. It's fine. If I were to expect myself to always say the perfect thing, I would never put anything out there. Because I would like stop myself before I even say anything. And what's the point in that? Nobody requires perfection here. We're human beings, constantly in progress, in process, unfolding. And we're like a whole combination of vibration. It's not like all light and all dark. But we can work, transmute the dark stuff towards more lighter things. And also accept the darkness in us. I don't like toxic positivity either. But I focus my mind on the more pleasant things of life, on what I want to manifest and attract. Why? Because it feels better. And I've gone through the hellhole of suffering, of my own resistance. I'm like, after that, I look back, I'm like, damn, that was heavy. I'm done with it. That was like, 30 years of my life? Fuck. I'm ready for something new. I'm ready for this new frequency. Feels good. Feels damn good. I'm staying up here. I'm nurturing this good vibe. Why not? I'm out of this like self-flagellating martyrdom state I was in also. Carrying the world on my shoulders. I still need to like undo these knots. I call them golf balls. I have these, it's like fiber. It's so rock hard because I'm always contracted. I need to allow myself to let go, to release the tension. Because tension is a sign of stress, and stress at the root of it is fear. There's so much fear in our system. So for me, the true process is transmuting the fear into love and expansion for the simple reason that it feels better. And I don't want to resist my own unfolding anymore. I want to discover who the hell I am. It's not like a punto final, It's not like, who knows, Magic Mail, I'm discovering so many facets of me. And that's an amazing thing. They say the privilege of a lifetime is to discover and to be who you truly are. Like what resonates with you, what wants to come out, what wants to be expressed. You're like a treasure cove of talents and different aspects. Know thyself, get to know thyself. You're like fascinating being. Yeah, I'm telling you. Alors, are we gonna pull some cards, guys, to make this is gonna be a super long episode, but I guess it had to be told. 1 second, I'm gonna pause this. I need to go to the toilet, come back. Okay, this is a long episode, but I wanted to share that part of my story, va? So have a bit of patience. And anyway, it's up to you to like listen or not. Yeah, and I feel it's important to share. Because honestly, guys, this is like the dark ages, spiritual dark ages where we're going through. We're stepping into, this was like Kali Yuga. We're stepping into the golden age again. But we need to reclaim our power, our spiritual sovereignty. And a lot of times it's really us who's gone through this crazy, traumatic, to the brink experiences and back, talking about Easter, no? Pak. Resurrection. I feel it's important to share those stories, how we made it back, and to give some hope, potentially, to anyone of you who's struggling. Because I was hopeless during a long time, and I had to, God, I don't even, it was so dark. Yeah, I guess it was my family who kept me going. But I was hopeless, I was in despair. I would have never imagined back like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, to be like this with you now, in this frequency, in this state of being, this joyful, this healthy, this empowered. I would have never imagined that. But here I am. Now, I still want to tell you one important aspect. It was not just me rebuilding myself. Because there was a point in 2020 where I still, I was on the antidepressants, but I still had the crazy anxiety attacks. And the kind of anxiety attacks where I remember being in a car with my friend once, and this wave of terror came over me. My heart, I thought I was gonna die. I thought I was gonna have like a seizure. My heart was beating. I felt so much terror, and I literally told my friend in the car, I said, you know what? His name was I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this one more day. Something is gonna happen because I'm on this trajectory to some kind of self-destruction. I can't do this one more day. I'm gonna talk to the devil. And I told the devil, take anything, an arm, a leg, anything to make this terror and this pain go away. And when I told my other friend the next day that I had made a pact with the devil, she's like, Mel, why don't you make a pact with God? I was like, God, seriously? So I didn't have any faith to that point. Definitely not. But I was really at that point where I'm like, okay, I need something, because if I continue this path, it's leading to destruction, self-destruction. I know it. So that night, actually several things came into play. But that night, I remember I said the prayer. I remembered from my Catholic upbringing this prayer: Lord, I'm not worthy to receive you, but just say the word and I shall be healed. And then I thought about it. I'm like, I'm going to change the wording. And I said, Lord, I am worthy to receive you. Just say the word and I shall be healed. And I said, listen, if you exist, angels, God, one universe, I need your help. I'm at the end of my wits. There's no way I can continue like this. I need help. If you exist, please help me. I am worthy. And I promise you, I was like, okay, I'm going to make it a deal. I promise you, if you get me out of this state, I will use it for something good. I don't know what, but I'll use it, put it to good use. That was my prayer. The next day, I kid you not, because I wrote down the date and I still celebrate that date. So 21st of January, it was the 15th of January of 2021. I woke up And I felt severely disoriented, where I like got out of bed and I felt very strange and I tried to figure out what it was. I went around, walked around my room, went into the garden, and it suddenly dawned on me that the pain was gone. And it was so unfamiliar, because remember, I had been in this chronic pain state for a year, that when it was gone, I was like, I didn't really know what to do with myself. I actually called a friend and said, I don't know if I'm manic depressive now, but I feel really strange. And he said, well, you sound pretty together. You don't sound, let's just keep an eye, just keep track of this. And that's when I started with my Instagram stories, until somebody said, Mel, why don't you open a YouTube channel? And here we are. But I swear, it was divine intervention. And that day also, I started watching Joe Dispenza videos, where he also talked about the capacity to heal ourselves by putting ourselves into meditation, putting our mind and body in the present moment. So I took it as a scientific experiment. I said, okay, I'm going to sit down and meditate, like he says, for an hour every day for like 30 days, for a month, and see what happens. I have nothing to lose anymore, because I already had lost everything and I almost lost my life. So I'm going to try whatever works, and I'm going to keep on doing it. So I took it as an experiment, and I swear, the meditation, so healing. After 1 week, I went off my antidepressants, and they tell you, don't just come off your antidepressants. You have to wean off that stuff like gradually. And I tried it in the past once, and I had crazy brain zaps. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. But I felt so confident, so healthy 1 week in, after this intervention, after meditating, that I said, I can do this. I feel it. I don't need that. And I don't need the medication anymore. So this is my story. Yeah. Again, remember discernment. Don't just buy anyone's story, and this is my story. I'm sharing my truth, what I went through, what happened to me. But yeah, since that day, 15th of January 2021, it's like a light switch from darkness, no more crazy panic attacks. As I told you, it's several components. I had a dream analyst. I went into the darkness, which I didn't want to face, that shadow that was always haunting me. And I actually found it was very painful. I had to come face to face with a younger version of me, like a 5-year-old version of me, who told me, you abandoned me, you don't love me, you don't listen to me, you don't care for me. And to really face that you had been abandoning your own self, a tender, angelic creature, you as 5-year-old, and you never trusted yourself, you always betrayed yourself, people pleased, which is the essence of self-betrayal, for so many years and decades. I had to mourn that, and I had to come to peace with little Melanie, make amends, and rebuild my relationship. So I told you, this whole rebuilding has been a process on several dimensions, several levels: physical, neurological, brain, heart, soul, trust, intuition, inner child. But it's been worth it. It takes work, but it's worth it. And it's absolutely possible. Miracles are possible. And I wanted to make the point that it was not just me working on my own. I opened up to something larger. And from that day on, I believe, I have faith. It has nothing to do with religion. I respect everyone who has a religion, but this is my story. I have a personal relationship with, Mahadev, with universe, the highest. Because I didn't do this on my own. And I know I have a purpose now, a calling. Sharing this story, sharing my experience, being perhaps support or guide for other people going through that kind of hell. So there we go. I opened the cans of beans, cans of worms, spilled the beans. So yeah, guys, it's all possible. And every day since then, I really make it a point to just say thank you. It's another day that I'm not in hell. Because hell for me was this complete disconnect from source, from light, from your own being. It was a soul pain. And that's hell. Complete disconnection. It's hell. So another day in paradise. Another day to follow our joy, follow our bliss, to create, to use our mental and emotional capacities to create what we want to create, to co-create with the divine. I mean, that's like a gift. Yeah. And I remind myself every day of that. I don't take anything for granted anymore. Which I guess, these harsh experiences really, they mark you so deep that, yeah, you don't, I guess I'm deeper. I'm not superficial anymore in that sense. I don't take things for granted anymore. Yeah, carpe diem, memento mori, also reminds me of my own mortality. Life is a gift, so we might as well use our talents and our gifts to enjoy life, to be in joy, because joy is the higher frequency. It's like divine frequency. So I'm your joy coach. I keep on telling you. It's not like a flippant thing, let's just be like joyful. It has deep meaning, joy. It's part of our purpose of being here, is to be joyful. It's like the reverence to the divine also. If you're in your joy, you are in the divine frequency. Miracles happen. Voila. What else? Oh yeah, and I was telling you that I really feel this is not by chance. We're all going, I'm not saying this is just my story, but there's like so many of us going through this kind of transmutation, transformation, soul retrieval, healing, deep healing, because the zeitgeist nowadays is that of healing, of reclaiming our power, our spiritual sovereignty, and reclaiming our divinity, reconnecting with our own divinity, the divine within, Aldous Huxley. Yeah, and it's a personal journey. People can support you and guide you, coaches, therapists, everything. There's a whole bunch of people can support you, but you got to do the work on your own because it's a personal reconnection. It's about you. You are the most important person. You are at the center of your universe. You are a universe per se. Yeah? So guys, I'll leave you with that because it's a kind of crazy long episode. And maybe we just pull one card because I like to pull at least one card. Yeah? One card. I'd like to hear comments box, guys. I always say it. If something resonates here, any parts of my stories, any parts of my story, let me get one of the decks. 1 second. Which one? Let's use this one. Good old. Can't remember the name. I can't remember the name. Anyway, let's use this one. Oops, there's another card in here. So, after all is said and done in this episode, dear angels, spirit guides, ancestors, do you have any message, especially for you watching? Yes, you. Any message here? Whoa. Fork in the road. Fork in the road. Is this a llama? These animals that spit. There's an owl on his back. And there's one of those, those like Berlin, New York signposts in all directions and a monkey. And the llama's like, which direction should we go? Fork in the road. Are you facing a fork in the road? We constantly face that stuff, no? And it sometimes gets scary. But again, if you're connected with your intuition, with yourself, with your heart, as the fork in the road arrives, you follow that. Not necessarily what your ego wants, because the ego likes to keep us safe, proverbially, and stuck in patterns. But following our heart's desires takes a leap of faith, takes courage, because it's the unknown. But always trust that the universe is there to catch you. You take one step in the direction of your heart's desires, the universe will receive you with 10 steps. That's how much the universe loves you. But let's see what ¿Qué dice la libretita aquí? Va. Okay, fork in the road. Essential meanings. Time to make a decision, considering the consequences as you prepare to act, owning up to your obligation to make a necessary choice. Does this resonate with you? Are you at the fork of a road, in the fork of a road? The oracle's message. Every choice has a consequence. And that can paralyze us, no? I've been like that before because I didn't trust myself, so I would overthink. And I'm like, oh my God, what's the consequence of A, B, C? And I would never make a decision. Analysis paralysis. Again, that's why when we trust ourselves, it's easier to make a decision from a whole being, not just out of fear and ego and mind that keeps us looping. So, you've arrived at a fork in the road and are being asked to come to a decision. Will you further your dreams by choosing left or by choosing right? Will you take the road less traveled or the one well worn by others who have come before you? This is your choice and yours alone. Circumstances and other people will not make it for you. I know it's scary. But be present and do not avoid this junction, for it is an important crossroads. Take heart, as no matter which path you choose, you will have a rich and meaningful experience. All roads lead to Rome, one way or the other. Take the joyful one. Take the one that your heart nudges you to go. Relationship message. You've reached a moment of truth in the evolution of your relationship. Which will you choose? To open up to the possibility of love or to remain isolated? To go deeper and commit to mutual passion or to walk away? This is a time to take responsibility for your truest desire and follow it. Be honest with yourself about what you're willing to do, invest and give, and then choose. You cannot make a wrong choice. If you move forward with a relationship, know that it will be based in truth and authenticity. You will have made a conscious decision rather than simply hanging on because you don't want to be alone, or ending things because you're afraid of the intensity of a genuine connection. All roads lead to the lessons you must learn in your relationships. Regardless of the decision you make, it will place you on the path to a truer experience of the heart. Yeah? Trust yourself. Trust yourself. Prosperity message. You've come as far as you can on this part of your journey, and now you're faced with a choice. Inherent in this choice is the need for change, for evolution, and for a bettering of your circumstances. Narrow it down to just a single question. Who do I need to become, and what do I need to believe in order to live a life of prosperity? Answer honestly and from your heart. Then the decision about which way to go will be effortless. Know that abundance is all around you. Choose to see it, and it will be easier to settle on a direction. For the way will be made clear by your intuition, which knows how to steer you toward your well-being. So don't be stuck in analysis paralysis. Give yourself a chance. And also, don't be afraid to make a mistake. It's for me, my fear used to be always that, oh my God, I don't even want to choose because I'm scared of making the wrong choice, as if there's like an ultimate wrong choice. But if we don't choose at all, we just constantly stuck. And the worst thing for me was always to be stuck. I don't want to be stuck anymore. I want to move. Vale? So trust your heart. Know that you can't know all outcomes. Don't be a control freak. Let go. Trust. Yeah, take this leap of faith. Trust yourself. Give yourself a chance to experience, explore, experiment, and to mess up. And then try again. Mess up again. Who cares? Be like a kid in the mud, playing with the mud. Dust yourself off and go again. Yeah? It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to mess up. It's okay to experiment. Don't be a perfectionist. Yeah? Connect with yourself. Intuition, heart, mind, everything work in conjunction, gut. Trust your own being. Don't ask everyone for an opinion. Ask yourself, your higher self, your inner being. What is it that I truly want? What do I want to experience? Which direction serves my highest good? And then go. Vale. Okay, super long episode, guys. I don't know, anyone is still with me? Respect at this point. But yeah, it was an important episode. I love you lots, and we'll see you for episode 7 coming up super soon because I'm rolling. And remember, Magic Mel, I'm your joy coach, soul guide. tarot energy reader and entertainer. We're together with Alan. We always have your back. Okay? Email me for coaching, email me for tarot readings, and comment in the comments box so I know what's going on with you. ¿Vale? Besos, stay cool, and stay tuned.